Welcome to Future Fiction Reads. Looks a bit different, doesn't it? Hello, my name is Luke. Welcome back to the channel, and you may have noticed a few things that are different. The name of the channel, for starters, Future Fiction Reviews, and the decor's had a little bit of an upgrade, and we're going to tell you a little bit about why I've decided to just have a bit of a relaunch, bit of a revamp of the channel, and a little bit about what's been going on and what I'm reading at the minute. And then, you know, we can go from there. I am taking a much more relaxed approach to booktubing and to reading, and I'm really enjoying the way I'm doing it at the minute. I think this year has been a very, very slow reading year for me. I've only actually finished 15 books, which is terrible for me. You know, it's not a numbers game. I don't really care that much. You know, I'm not racing. I'm not racing towards some kind of large number of books to read. You know, I'm taking my time, but you know, it's been a slow reading year for me, and I had lots of other things going on in my life that was making booktubing for me a little bit difficult. It wasn't actually booktubing itself, which isn't difficult. It's fun, it's great, but other stuff was getting in the way, and stuff like that. And at work, you know, I'm currently training in a management training program at the minute, so that has kind of taken up a lot of just a lot of my headspace, and which is great because, you know, it's I'm really enjoying it. I love where I work at the minute, and I decided that I want to come back and relaunch the booktube in a much more relaxed, much more laid back manner. You know, I'm not gonna try and stick to a scheduled 2 episodes a week, must be on this day, must be on that time. It's going to be a much more relaxed approach because I'm just enjoying the way I'm reading at the minute. Also, the channel's going to focus a little bit more on science fiction, and there's numerous reasons why. One, I have read a lot of fantasy over the past 4 years. I'm really back-to-back fantasy with a few science fiction books dotted in there. And really, when I started reading when I was a young teenager, you know, it was stuff like, you know, on TV anyway, at least, it was stuff like Star Trek and the film Star Wars. I was very much a sci-fi fan before a fantasy fan. I discovered Tolkien when I was about 15, but, you know, when I was 12 or 13 years old, I was watching a lot of sci-fi. And, you know, I read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy when I was a young teenager, and that really, you know, even though it's a comedy kind of book, you know, the science fiction in there was fantastic. Douglas Adams had a ridiculous imagination, and, you know, so I've kind of going back to my roots in a way, and reading a lot more science. I have been reading a lot more science fiction this past few months, and bloody enjoying it as well. Science fiction just has a way of approaching concepts and ideas and looking at the world through specific lenses, and just kind of mirroring, you know, mirroring certain social or political or environmental issues that we have at the minute. And I just love the way it does that. I love the way that we can explore those issues through science fiction in an entertaining way. You know, it has to be an entertaining, fun book to read as well at the same time as tackling those issues. I mean, that's more on the hard sci-fi spectrum. And then you've got the amazing space opera stuff, which is just fun spaceships, empires, battles, and, you know, and great fun characters. So, and I think space opera is kind of more akin to fantasy in that way, that it's, you know, it's a lot more fun, a lot more vibrant, and can kind of stretch the imaginations a bit wider, whereas hard sci-fi tries to ground itself in real science, in real politics, real social norms and stuff like that. So I love both of them, so I'm definitely going to be exploring both hard and soft sci-fi and everything in between. So a lot more sci-fi. I'm not getting rid of fantasy, by no means. There was going to be a generous smattering of fantasy throughout the channel, but I will be focusing on sci-fi. And another reason I'm doing it is because, you know, I'm subscribed to a lot of booktube channels, a huge amount of booktube channels, and I would say 90% of them focus on fantasy alone, with maybe the odd sci-fi book here. There's a couple of channels that are dedicated to sci-fi that I really, really enjoy, like Words in Time, Sci-Fi Odyssey. I love those channels. They are literally focused solely on science fiction, and it kind of inspired me to kind of revamp the channel and focus more on that, but also I'll definitely be reading my fantasy. It's just going to be kind of not as focused as the sci-fi, but like going forward, I think, you know, I probably read between 3 and 4 books a month. I don't read any more than that. I don't use audiobooks, so I don't get to, you know, I don't do audiobooks because it just doesn't suit me. It just, I prefer to take in through reading words. I find that if I am listening to a story, I get too distracted. You know, if I'm washing up or if I'm cooking, I get focused on what I'm doing there and I lose track of what's going on. So audiobooks don't really suit me. So I can't get through like as many books as many other booktubers do, and I don't really care because 3 or 4 books a month is absolutely fine with me. I'm happy with that. So what I'll probably do is I'll probably try and read like maybe a space opera, a hard sci-fi, somewhere in the middle, and a fantasy book per month. I think that's really doable for me. That's a really kind of relaxed, chilled out approach to the goal of 4 books a month. It's not going to put any pressure on me. It's not going to, you know, it's not going to get in the way of everything else I do, which is all my podcasting and work at the minute and all that kind of stuff. So it's as I said, and I keep saying, it's a much more relaxed approach for me, and I am really enjoying. I've been really enjoying the way I'm reading at the minute, which I'll get to in a minute. What I'm reading at the minute. So yeah, that's kind of the way I'm doing it, and you know, those 4 books that I read per month, hopefully read 3 or 4. You know, if I don't get the 4 read, I don't, because you know, when you get to some sci-fi, when you get to authors like Peter F. Hamilton and you're reading a 1,000 plus book, probably won't get that done in a month. I'll probably read those big chonkers in sections throughout my, you know, kind of behind reading the smaller fast-paced books, which is what I'm doing at the minute, and I'm really enjoying the way I'm doing that. There's one book I'm reading at the minute, which is Peter F. Hamilton's Great North Road. It's 1,000 plus pages. I've read that so far, so I'm about 200 pages in, and I stopped reading that, and I went for a 330 page book, and just really enjoyed reading that for 4 or 5 days, and now I'm going to go back to Peter F. Hamilton's book and probably read about 200 or 300 pages, stop at a point where, you know, I could probably remember where I am, like a end of a scene or something, and then I can come back to that after reading another short book, and that seems to be working really well for me, and I think I'll probably carry on with that. You know, read the big chonkers. I do want to read Rob J. Hayes' God Eater, the first book of that, so that's in my October kind of reading, but again, it's a big chunker, so I'll probably read that in phases in between my smaller books. So yeah, it's a really relaxed approach, and this is how I'm going to kind of work the channel, and I just want to build a good community, which I did with, you know, Luke's Book Nook, and I'm hoping the community will stay with me. You know, a lot of you did come for the fantasy, but I hope you'll stick around because I still will be reading fantasy. It just, you know, the channel just won't be solely fantasy. It's going to be much more sci-fi with my generous smattering of fantasy in there as well. So that's kind of the loose plans for the channel, and yeah, I'm just going to kind of approach it, you know, maybe 1 episode a week, maybe 2 episodes a week if I'm feeling up for it, if I have the time to do that. And I'm going to play with shorts as well. I've not really done YouTube shorts before, so I'm going to try and play around with that. I've never done one before, so I'll be experimenting with that and seeing how that goes, because in that way I can probably just get a bit more content out. I can do super fast, quick reviews instead of, you know, the long form reviews, which I will still do with some books, but not all of them, because, you know, I think just getting that short review out in the YouTube Shorts is a great idea of just letting everyone know that this specific author is great and go read them. So, what am I reading at the minute? Where are we? We're kind of midway through September, and I'll tell you what I did read at the end of August, and that was Mushroom Blues by Adrian M. Gibson. I wrote a review with Before We Go blog, and it's going to be on Goodreads and Amazon as well. What a book! What an absolute book! Uncompromising in its themes. You have a main character who is very hard to like. You know, they have issues. They have certain points of view that you as a reader will definitely disagree with, unless you're a really horrible person. And yeah, it's a great book. It's, you know, it's set in the fungal verse, which is, you know, it's very mushroom related, very fungus related. It's, you know, fungal punk is the phrase that Adrian likes to use, and it is basically a take on cyberpunk, but we're just but it's melded and moulded and mashed up with a fungal verse of sorts. So fungal people and the environment and the buildings around it and everything, all their culture and all their society is circumventing around mushrooms and fungus and the kind of this like fungal net, which is, you know, this hive mind and all that kind of stuff. And it's kind of centered around a detective, a human detective who is living amongst the fungal people, and they're basically racist towards, you know, this main character is racist towards fungal people. You know, she does not like them at all. So it's about her facing her prejudices and facing her own problems, which she has plenty of. I'm not going to go into the backstory because that's for you to find out when you read the book, but she has a lot of baggage that she has to deal with and face. And throughout this investigation of the murder of this fungal child, she has to deal with her own demons. And Adrian just wrote a very uncompromising, very theme-layered, brilliant detective noir book, and I recommend it to anyone who loves sci-fi, anyone who loves books with layered with themes, and anyone who likes a challenging challenging main character. Go and read that book. It is fantastic, and it's doing fantastically well. It's a Spiffbo finalist, so I really hope he goes as far as he can, because this book deserves accolades and it deserves to be read. So I finished that at the end of August. I started Great North Road, which is the Peter F. Hamilton book that I mentioned. This is it's also a kind of it's a hard sci-fi detective noir, and Peter F. Hamilton is one of those authors who is incredibly skillful at juggling a massive cast of people. I mean, I'm only 200 pages in, and we're already dealing with about 20 characters. But he does so well, and he makes every single one unique, every single one three-dimensional. They all have their own personality, all have their own socio-political background. He is incredibly good at doing that. So yeah, I'm 200 pages in, and we are literally there is a murder of a high-profile family, the North family, who basically they are clones. They clone themselves generation to generation, and each generation gets less and less good in terms of, you know, it gets further and further away from the original North, who basically wanted to be God and create his own family in his own image. So every generation, though, gets further and further away from who the original North was. So one of them gets murdered, and that's pretty much procedural at the minute. I know Peter F. Hamilton, I know the style he writes with, so it's going to go off in some very, very bizarre, hard sci-fi, semi-fantastical areas, because that's just how he writes. So I'm really looking forward to carry on with that now. Once I've finished my current read, which is One Way by S.J. Morden. This is fantastic. I've got about 80 pages left to read, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this book. It is basically, it's kind of like, it's been comped as Orange is the New Black meets The Martian. It's basically The Martian with a bunch of convicts who are hired via this company called EXO. And basically they're looking for cheap labour to build the first base on Mars. Expendable people, basically. So the idea they come up with is to handpick and train 8 convicts who are basically on death row. They're never going to be released again. They've got life sentences. And they're given, they're given this chance to get out of prison and go and live in another prison, which is Mars, and basically build this base from scratch. And then, you know, they get the training lasts for quite a long time. They actually they were on Earth a lot longer than I thought they'd be. I thought they'd be. I thought we'd be on Mars longer in the book. That's not a bad thing, but it took me by surprise how long we're on Earth training. But that's important. It's really, really important because it really gets you get to know the convicts and their dynamics together and the tension they have together. And then once they're on Mars, things start going very wrong and people start dying. And things are not what they seem. Things aren't adding up. And the main character, Frank, who is kind of been put in charge, he's a convict as well, but he's basically put in charge in a way of the rest of the convicts. Or he takes up a leadership role because no one else is. And there's a company man called Brack, who is an absolute arsehole. He is a character you will love to hate. And I shout at him several times through the book. And he's there kind of overseeing and supervising the convicts. But yeah, he's shifty as well. There's something going on there. So yeah, 80 pages to go. And I'm very, very anxious to get to the end of that book. Because weirdly, even though they're convicts and, you know, they've done some horrible things, you really start to care about them. And you don't want them to die because you start really liking their characters. So yeah, I'll be putting a review up of this on before we go. And I'll probably do a video as well for that. I also read Falling into Oblivion by Aaron M. Payne, who is also known as Bibliotheory on BookTube. This is his debut novel, cyberpunk novel, and I read this and thoroughly enjoyed it. This is a high-octane, real fast-paced detective murder mystery set in the neon-saturated city of Knox City, and this is, you know, this is real good cyberpunk. It's got rainy city, dirty, trashy city, neon saturated. You know, the poor live down on the ground and the rich are up in their, you know, their high rises, looking down upon the masses of worms below. You know, it's got corrupt corporations, it's got corrupt governments, it has mechanical animals, implants, cyber tech, all that kind of stuff. It's all there, and basically our main character, this is the first person perspective, our main character, detective, what's his name? Oh, I forget his name. I think it's Sal Harcones, but I'll just check. Saul Harcones. Our main character, Saul Harcones, it kind of takes place over 24 hours on his, he basically is, he's sent to a scene of a crime where a young boy has seemingly had brain damage from some implants he's had. And this particular case leads to places of corruption, and there's a conspiracy that he starts to unravel, and he gets deeper and deeper in it and gets more and more dangerous for him and his family. And all through this book, there's a lovely little kind of through line where he's basically just trying to get home so he can read a book to his daughter before she goes to bed. And, you know, everything that happens through the book, the subtext to that is it's just a man who wants to get home to his family, and he can't because he has to solve this case. And, you know, we live in a world where, you know, everything's run by corporations. So, you know, in the police force, getting a case closed quick results in bonuses. You know, bonus creds, bonus money. And so, you know, he is trying desperately to get money because he wants to save up to send his daughter to college, university. So he wants to get this case solved in 24 hours so he can get that bonus cred, so he can help his daughter. So there's lots of motivation going through it, and it's a great book, really fast-paced, high octane. Absolutely smashed through this in a couple of days because it was just one of those books where you just keep reading. It's great. So I read that, and so another book I am currently reading through, which is with Beard of Darkness. He's doing a read-along for Johnny Wirtz's Curse of the Mistwraith. This is my fantasy book. I'm reading it in a minute. I'm a little bit behind, I'm a few chapters behind on the read-along, but I hope to catch up probably this afternoon and get some chapters read and catch up and share my thoughts on the Discord there. So I'm reading that as well. Once I finish that, I will put a review on the channel as well. So that's kind of what I'm reading, what I read at the minute. And I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope you are happy to have me back, because I am very, very happy to be back. As I said, I really want to start building this community up again, and you know, I really had a lovely community with Book Nook, and I'm hoping to have that lovely community here on future fiction reviews. So until then, happy reading, and I'll catch you later. Bye bye.